I just want to talk to everybody for a moment about chickenpox and shingles and vaccinations. Before I woke up to the various ways that we're being poisoned, and I'm not even going to use that word lightly. I mean poisoned. I'm not being dramatic. With things like GMO and water fluoridation and vaccines, which have aluminum adjuvants and formaldehyde, which, by the way, real quick on that, it's totally not fine apparently if you smoke, because cigarettes have formaldehyde in them. And you see that in public service commercials all the time. But your vaccinations have formaldehyde in them, sometimes in very large amounts, and you shoot that directly into your baby, and that's totally fine. So that makes sense, right? Anyway, before I woke up to all of this, I got my kids vaccinated, because that's what you do. Because if you don't, they treat you like an idiot, and they talk to you like you're stupid, and they talk to you like you're a bad parent. And not everyone has had that experience, but I definitely have, and I've not only had it in the office, just for even asking questions at a doctor's office about vaccinations, but also I had it at the public health department when we went there to get a vaccine waiver form. They bring someone out with all kinds of pamphlets that's going to talk, CDC pamphlets that's going to talk to you like you're stupid because you don't want to get your child vaccinated. And they make it sound like your kid's going to die because you're not going to do this. So that's wonderful. Anyway, before I woke up to all of that, I got my son the varicella vaccine for chickenpox. And it wasn't too much longer after that my mother developed shingles. She had never had chickenpox as a child, and she ended up contracting shingles, and the nurse at her doctor's office told her it was likely because my son had received the varicella vaccine. And my mother said that having shingles was one of the worst things she's ever been through in her entire life, and that includes fighting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So she had cancer, but yet shingles to her was almost worse in some ways. So that should tell you a lot about the pleasure and joy that is shingles. Now, I just want to take a look at a few things here. According to CIA data from the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency that came out in 2010, we rank 49th in life expectancy. So that's pretty low. A lot of times you'll hear people quote that we're 34th, but that's actually from data that came out in 1990. So that's a while ago. We're actually 49th now. Okay, we're down the pike quite a bit here, and I would say if we've got all these wonderful new vaccines, because now the U.S. is the most aggressive vaccine schedule in the world, they expect you to have 69 doses of 16 different vaccines by the time you're 18 years old now. Back in the 80s, you only had to have 10 by the time you were 5. So I'm just saying, our vaccine schedules have gone way up, very aggressive these days. They've got new schedules for adults and older adults, and it's one of the most aggressive schedules in the world. But yet, our life expectancy, 49th. We're just sliding down the pike. So those two things obviously must be mutually exclusive, right? Because getting vaccines is not apparently helping us to be much healthier. So anyway, I decided to look into this though, because I've seen lately everywhere, Walgreens and all these places are saying, come get your shingles vaccine today. Just come right in and get that. And I don't remember seeing that several years ago when all this went down with my mother. So I decided to kind of start looking into this just a little bit. And what I came up with is pretty upsetting, and I think everyone needs to be aware of it. Okay, first of all, when the chickenpox vaccine came out, it was in the mid-90s, 95 I think, and they made it sound like it was a huge epidemic, chickenpox was. And if you go to the CDC's website right now and look, it still makes it sound that way. They say chickenpox vaccine protects you against a very uncomfortable and sometimes serious disease. Chickenpox used to be very common in the United States. About 4 million people would get the disease each year. Also, 10,600 people were hospitalized and 100 to 150 people died each year from chickenpox. Okay, and then it says, thankfully, chickenpox vaccine has changed all of that. Well, thank you so much for that, because I'm very worried about the fact that 4 million people had to get such a sometimes serious disease. But let's actually look at that, okay? According to the World Population Clock, the U.S. has 313,531,420 people in it. Okay? If you go ahead and take those CDC numbers of 4 million people getting chickenpox, okay, that is going to give you about 1.3%. So if that epidemic was still plaguing our civilization today here in the United States, 1.3% of us would get chickenpox. And I'm not going to lie, chickenpox sucked. I remember getting chickenpox. It was awful. You got to get that calamine stuff, and it's just so horribly uncomfortable all the time. You know, it really did stink, although I did get to stay home from school for a week, which was kind of awesome, because when you're 9, you know, not exactly where you want to be. Anyway, 10,600 people were hospitalized, and 100 to 150 people died. Well, okay, let's look at that. 10,600 people were hospitalized. Okay, out of 313,531,420 people, that 10,600 people makes up 0.003% of the population. That is not a very large number. And even if we take 150 out of the 100 to 150 people that died each year because of chickenpox and do the math, that's 0.00005% of people died from chickenpox. That's an astronomically low number of people. Anyway, so yay for the CDC dramatically decreasing the 0.00005% chance that we all had of dying from chickenpox with their lovely vaccine. Okay? But the problem with that is that shingles is also caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox. And this is, again, off of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's own website. It says the same virus causes chickenpox. Shingles causes a really painful rash on one side of your body that forms blisters that scab over within 7 to 10 days. And then it takes like a couple weeks to a month for that to clear up, sometimes longer. But one of the complications of shingles that a lot of people who get shingles end up with is a condition called postherpetic neuralgia. I'm probably not saying that right. Postherpetic neuralgia. And people who have that get severe pain in all of the areas where they had the shingles rash. And they can still have that pain even after that rash clears up. And it can be severe and it can be debilitating. And it takes a few weeks to several months for that to resolve, but even the CDC's website says that sometimes it can persist for many years. But hey, if you get something like that, it's okay, because you can just go and get more drugs and have more doctor's appointments and take more prescriptions. So, chickenpox and shingles are related. They're caused by similar viruses. But did you know that chickenpox is also nature's way of protecting you from shingles? Because after you contract and recover from chickenpox, your natural immunity gets boosted by that. And then if you come in contact with other people that have chickenpox or are recovering, it boosts it even further. So actually having chickenpox protects you from having shingles. The incidence of adult shingles increased by 90% from 1998 to 2003. So 3 years following this widespread institution of varicella vaccines on everybody, the incidence of shingles went up 90% in adults. Why do you think that is? As Dr. Sherry Tenpenny points out, vaccinating children with chickenpox vaccine will cause the wild virus itself to die out. So the chances of people being re-exposed to that to keep their residual virus in check, the dormant virus in their bodies in check, and building up those booster immunities is going to be substantially lessened. And without that exposure, as adults, your rate of shingles, chance to get shingles goes up. But it's totally fine, because guess what? Merck has come out with a new shingles vaccine. Yay! So we're all saved once again by Merck's new shingles vaccine. And oh, by the way, just so you know, it's $200. So to get the shingles vaccine is $200. So what are we really looking at here? Because I'm just going to go ahead and say that what we're looking at is an epidemic caused by a company making one vaccine that gives you something even worse, so you have to get another vaccine. Because that's pretty much what you're going to have to do at this point, because there's so many people walking around with weakened strains of chickenpox virus, and all of these adults now are getting the shingles. Okay, so you see how this works? Okay, the kids get the chickenpox vaccine, and then adults like us that have had chickenpox as kids, the actual chickenpox, are not going to be exposed to that wild virus to get those booster immunities. And when we don't get that, we're going to have to get the shingles vaccine. And the kids that got the chickenpox vaccine are most likely also going to have to get the shingles vaccine because they don't have any immunities either. So nobody has any immunities, and we'll just all keep getting vaccines and vaccines and vaccines. And Merck made them both, so Merck will get to pocket all that money. Isn't that wonderful? We've got numbers going up 90%. That's a pretty high number in just a 5-year period of shingles incidences. Okay? And my point is, you just need to start looking into who's actually making money off of all of these vaccines. Okay? I'm just leave you with a picture right here of an ad that I saw at my local grocery store last flu season. Yes, that's a smiley face right there made out of Band-Aids. And it says, even our flu shots will make you smile. Get $10 in coupons when you get your flu shot at Hy-Vee, which is a grocery store I live near. Okay, when have we ever had a time where you go to a store and they give you $10 for something? You're not, like, I'm going to go to the store and buy socks. Hey, come on in and buy socks. Here's $10 in free merchandise. No. They're doing it for things like flu shots. They're giving everybody all these incentives to come get your flu shots. Now, why do you think that is? It's not like they're just, businesses just hand out free money. There's something else going on here, and it's pretty obvious what it is. Okay? Gardasil is the next new thing that they've done the same thing. They've made everybody think it's this big epidemic, and I'm going to do a whole different video on Gardasil because it's got its own special bunch of fake BS. But I'll just say this. If they decide to make Gardasil mandatory, Merck stands to gain $1 billion in revenue the first year that it's mandatory. $1 billion. Okay? So, flu shots aren't just making people smile. They're making people freaking rich. And this whole shingles thing, we didn't have that. We didn't have this huge incidence of shingles, and now everyone needs to go rush out and get their shingles vaccine. We didn't have that until we had the chickenpox vaccine. Okay? We didn't. And there's nobody that can even pretend to say that they're not linked. They're the same virus. So, it's just such a bunch of crap that they're doing this to people. That we're all just being basically guinea pigged out so that they can make money off of us. Because that's the bottom line. That's what this is. So, just be aware of that, because shingles is horrible, people. It's really painful, horrible disease. It's more than just getting a rash. It's more than just getting a little breakout that itches and you have to stay home from school and put calamine on your skin for a week. Shingles is bad. It's bad news. But that's why they can charge $200 for a vaccine, because people do not want to get that. Shingles results in 3 times as many deaths and 5 times as many hospitalizations as chickenpox. It's worse. Shingles is worse, and they knew it. This isn't new. This isn't new that they just figured that out. This has been common knowledge for a long time. And the CDC's own website has all this information. They knew this. This was not a surprise. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because I don't think people are quite aware linking these two things up, but they're completely, totally linked to each other. This was a created pandemic to cause people to buy more freaking vaccinations so that some D-bags over at Merck can line their pockets and buy another vacation home. All right? It's sick. Anyway, that's all I had to say about that. My blog is truthstreammedia.com. I'll talk to you guys later.